Hey guys, it's Maymay, and there is a wreath form here you can hardly see, but it's there. And it's a square wreath form that I picked up at Walmart some time back. They probably still have it, but you see the kind it is? It's these like wire wreath forms. And I'm not worried about the form itself. I'm going to cover it completely, but I love the square shape. And it is time for more wreaths for summer. I need one on my front door at home. I need one here at the cottage, so I thought let's make one or two. I'm going to start with this one. Now, I wasn't going to film this wreath because I thought this is too stinking simple. And then I was like, you know what? Some people might want to see a stinking simple wreath, so we're going to do it. I'm taking some of this burlap that's covered in lace. Here's the reason. I'm not as big of a lace person as I am a burlap person, right? But these go on clearance so often and for such good prices that sometimes I'll pick them up and I'll just flip it over and use the back side because, like I said, I'm not into the lace. Now, you can cut this lace away. If you decided you wanted to keep this lace and use it for something else because it's just stitched down to the edge, you could get in there and fussy cut it and get all that lace off, but I'm not going to stress about it because, like I said, I probably would never use lace anywhere else. What I am going to do is wrap this around this wreath form all the way around because I want to cover it completely up. Now, what I don't want to do is I don't want it to look sloppy. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to cut pieces like this size piece. Let me just do my measurement here. Let me cut this real quick and show you. It'll take a minute, but it won't be too bad. It'll give me the look I want, and that's the more important to me than time at this point. I want it to look a certain way. So I'm going to cut pieces about this big. I'm going to wrap them around, and I'm going to glue it. I want it to be neat and clean and fresh looking, just like this, okay? So that's the look I want. Now, you could take this ribbon and just wrap and wrap and wrap, and you'll get kind of that messy, shabby chic look, but I want this clean, almost like I had a burlap wreath form already to start with. So I'm going to do that all the way around and glue it down, and we'll be right back. So I'm going to take a second and show you how to do this corner. Can be a little intimidating, but it doesn't need to be. I'm just going to cut another piece of burlap, just about the size I've been using, doesn't really matter. Now, one corner is going to be covered by our flowers. So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to turn this upside down just like this, and we're just going to make sure that we have enough to touch this burlap, be able to wrap here and wrap here. And I'll show you why this is going to work, because we're going to cut a slice right here. I'm going to pick this up, and I'm doing this backwards because of camera, but it'll still work. I'm being sloppy, but it'll work, I promise. All right, so I have this little slice, right? Here's what I'm going to do first. I'm going to put some glue here and along this rail to start with. It's kind of like wrapping a present on the end. I'm going to pick this guy up. Now, you guys have seen me use this little tool before. This is one of those from Plaid. I want to say they're made for hot glue. I think they're called hot glue tools, but you can find this little kit with these little silicone tools on Amazon. They're really, really neat. This was sent to me by Alicia. I appreciate it very much. Now when we get to this end, we're going to do that whole kind of gift wrap thing where we're just going to bring this over and line up that edge. We're not looking for perfection. We just want it to be there. So I'm going to add some hot glue here along that edge and bring this guy down into that glue. Hold it and let it seal down. While I'm holding that, I want to talk to you about something. I've had some people asking me lately if I worry about using hot glue on my doors in the summertime and if my wreaths will fall apart. Well, as most of you know, I live in Alabama. It gets very, very hot here in the summertime. And I have always used hot glue on my wreaths and I've never had an issue. Now, I put my wreaths on my doors for typically 3 years. That's usually how long I can get out of a wreath because I have a covered front porch. That doesn't protect it from the heat. That just protects it from like the rain and things like that. But they get good and hot on that porch and they seem to live. Now I'm just going to take that little piece that we sliced and bring it over and put it into the glue. These tools are so invaluable because I don't have to get burned. It's nice to not stick your finger in the hot glue. Then I'm going to turn this over and see where this piece is kind of lifted up. I'm going to glue it straight down to that bar underneath and it works just fine. I've been doing it on all the corners. This is my last corner to do and it has worked perfectly because that burlap, once you glue it into place, it's not going anywhere. So see, we've got that corner covered. Now then, let me see if I can make this where you can see it. Nope, not that way. Let's do it this way. Now we bring another piece around to close it all up. So this piece will lay under and it will bring everything together. Now I might have to use a couple pieces here. I think I will put another piece because I want that to be covered really well. So I'm just going to do this piece here And this is how I've been doing it. Running some glue down this wire, running some glue across this piece, and some in the middle, just like that. So then I'll bring this side over and tuck it into all that glue. And then we're just going to lap this side over as well. So I'm just cutting a little strip of burlap to put right here. I'm going to glue it in place like we did all the others, and we will be in business. We still have glue strings we'll have to clean off, but now our square wreath is covered all the way around, and it's nice and neat and tailored looking, which is what I was going for. Now I have these flowers. I've had them forever in my stash and I've never used them. This is kind of a mum sort of flower. This is like a hydrangea, and those mum flowers came off of these stems that have a lot of little extra pieces that I can add here and there. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to glue these guys directly onto this wreath form like this, and then I'm going to take those other pieces and stick in to fill it up. I'm going to put them in the corner here like this, kind of running up the side and running down this side, and that's all I'm doing. It's a super simple wreath, and I wanted something simple and easy because I didn't want to spend all day making a wreath. So that's why I was like, I don't know if I'm going to show you guys how to make this wreath because it may be too simple. But then I was thinking there may be places where you need a good simple project, and this will be a good one for you. So now I'm just going to take this hydrangea and glue it into there. Is this a hydrangea? Am I trying to be a smarty pants and act like I know what flowers are? I think it's a hydrangea. I'm using lots of hot glue. If you're not a hot glue fan, this is probably not the project for you because this one's going to use a lot. So over here I have all the flowers I'm using, and I'm going to try to stack this in pretty tight with lots of flowers. I think it'll be pretty to have lots and lots of them here. I think I'll put a hydrangea on that corner. Something like that. I'm going to tuck this guy in. You can do this too. Do you see how this has this little stem? I'm just snipping those little stems off and throwing some hot glue in there to hold these down, and that works just fine. Now you can see here I have kind of this pile of flowers on one end. On those stems I showed you, there were some of these little purple pieces and some of these little twiny pieces. I'm going to incorporate these and some leaves to kind of give this a little more shape. So like this piece will kind of go in this area, and this piece I may tuck over here into this area just to give it a little more shape, and then add these little vines. So you just kind of play around with where you want your little pieces to be and what you want it to look like. I'm going to turn this facing me the correct way. I'm thinking I'm going to take one of these vines. I'm going to trim this down a little bit. It's a little too long here. It's got a wire in it, so I'm just going to snap that loose. And I'm thinking I'm going to glue this kind of up in this area for height, and just to give it some movement up here. So I'm going to put a little glue on it. And then I'm just going to slide this down into the flowers to kind of hide where it's glued. And I can always tack it in place here if I want to too. Once this gets sealed down or cooled off, I can decide if that's where I want it or if I want to tack it down again. Now, because I did this vine on this side, I'm going to go down here to the other end and put another vine here because I think it'll kind of balance out the weight of the piece. I'm just going to take the other vine, find where I want to put it first, just kind of do a little test run. I think like that. Put some glue on it and stick it in there. Just let that glue catch. Now for these purple pieces, I'm doing the same thing, adding some glue, and I'm just looking at the piece and deciding where I want them to stick out. Some of that glue fell, no big deal. But I'm going to tuck this in and let that glue catch, and then I'll have this other bit of movement through the different shapes of the flowers that I'm using. So like this piece will be here, and then I'm going to take this piece and put it in this area here to kind of fill in that spot. Now for even more movement, I've snipped some of these leaves away, and they're going to kind of be like a base in the background. So you see how those kind of hang off? You want that kind of movement to kind of flow. So I'm going to add these leaves in different places, and this will really start to tie the piece together. all these little extra pieces we're sticking here and there will really bring everything together and not be a big blob of flowers anymore. You need to add the greenery just tucked here and there so you can see it. This has good leaves on it. I might bring one up here into this area like this, and we're just going to keep doing that all the way around. Just find a spot. The cool thing is, these things, when they grow in nature, they grow wherever they grow. There's no perfect rhyme or reason. So as long as you have them kind of intermingled, you know, where the colors look okay, you're going to be fine. So I'm going to come under here, under this flower, and kind of, I always like to kind of do a dry run to see if I like it there. So see how that kind of adds some color. So that one will go there. So just move things around and tuck it in. And I'll just continue adding leaves all the way around, just kind of lifting and seeing where I want them. That looks like a good spot. And just kind of lift again. Tuck that guy in. Now we're on the side, and see how I have the purple. This is the one we put in together just a few minutes ago. I've kind of decided I want to add a little more purple, maybe up in this area, just to kind of bring some more flowers kind of coming out and looser. So I'm just going to glue that guy in. I just cut him away from the stem, and I'm just going to tuck him and glue him. A lot of tucking and gluing in this project. So he'll live just like that. And then I'm going to add some more of those purple flowers throughout. Now the next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to take a piece of ribbon. I'm going to fold a loop on one end, okay? And then I'm going to squish that together. So I'm not making a bow, I'm making a loop with a tail. I'm going to take a pipe cleaner, just half of one, wrap that around, and we're basically going to make a little loopy bow looking element to add a little bit of texture. So I'm just going to wrap that in the back to give me something to use for hot glue. Don't need all that, I'm going to trim some off. So more like that. And then I'm going to turn this so I can see what I'm doing. Kind of in this area, I'm going to take this little guy and I'm going to tuck it way down in to the flowers and glue it in place. So I'm going to get it down in there first. I'm going to find the place I want it. And then I'm going to hot glue it into place. This ribbon is going to be one that I can kind of mess with and move around. So we're going to get the feel of some ribbon, but really just do this simple little thing and get the same feel that we've run ribbon through all of this. It's kind of a cheater method. It's my method for cheating. Instead of tying a big old bow and trying to figure out how to put it in there, I just do this. Tuck that down in. The trick is to tuck it, okay? Tuck it and hold it till it dries, and that way you'll get this nice puckery looking bow loop. And then let that live inside those. And I'm going to do a couple of those. One over here too, maybe a couple up there, not sure. You just play around. So again, it's just a piece of ribbon looped over. Take yourself a little chenille stem, twist that up just to give yourself something to glue, and it holds your loop in place. Find where you want it first. That's the trick. So I've got it all kind of folded up. I'm going to find a spot for it, and I think somewhere in here. So now I'll add my glue, and then I'll tuck. I'm using this little guy because I don't burn my fingers that way. So just press it down in there. Once it gets in there, do some fluffing. Now I want to show you one more little trick. I'm going to take a straight piece of ribbon. In the middle, I'm going to fold it on itself and make like this little V, okay? At the end, we're going to just crunch it and take another chenille stem, wrap around it just to hold that in place, because we're going to hot glue this in to make it look like we have run this ribbon all throughout our project. So we have it here, and I'm going to find a spot for it. I'm thinking somewhere like here. Let's see if I can get it tucked under a little bit. Oh, there we go. And so I'm going to glue that into place so it'll look like we have tails of ribbon come out the top. I did this on both sides, so it kind of looks like we have a tail of ribbon going out one end and then the other as well. And you can kind of tuck it, like you can tuck it down in there and pull this flower out of it and just have that pretty ribbon showing. Now I know how hard this is for you guys to see in this camera view, but when I hang it, you'll be able to see it, and I'll make sure I do a slow motion video so you guys can see what it looks like. But that's it, and I was afraid it was just going to be too easy and too simple, but it really is. Just play with your flowers and your ribbons and just put them on there and lay them like you like them. Think like wildflowers. You know, if you saw a field, they'd be growing in all different directions. I'll hang this up and take some pictures for you. Thanks so much for watching, guys. If you make a wreath like this or any project, we want to see it. Head over to our Facebook group, which is Maymay Made It, and so did I, and show us what you're making. I look forward to talking to you soon. Bye-bye.